The sky burned a deep red, streaked with dark clouds that twisted like smoke. The wind carried a strange hum, almost alive, brushing against the barren landscape of the planet. Rocks jutted out of the ground at sharp angles, and the air smelled faintly of metal and dust. Eli walked carefully, his boots crunching over dry stones, scanning the horizon. He had traveled far, alone, exploring worlds no human had ever seen. That's when he saw her. She stood a short distance away, completely covered in armor that shimmered faintly in the dying light. The armor was unlike anything Eli had ever seen. Its metal plates seemed alive, glowing softly, pulsing with energy. Lines of light ran across it in strange patterns, and the helmet reflected the red sky like a mirror. She didn't move at first, just watched him with eyes that shone with an unusual intensity. Eli froze. His instincts screamed to stay back, but something about her drew him forward. There was a tension in the air, like the calm before a storm. Then she lifted a hand and pointed to her chest, shaking her head slowly. Her movements were deliberate, almost human, but cautious. Finally, she spoke. Her voice was calm, mechanical, but tinged with urgency. "I cannot breathe like this. I need your help." Eli's heart skipped a beat. He had never met a being like this before, part human, part something else. His curiosity battled with fear. The armor looked dangerous. It looked alive, yet her eyes, human eyes, full of fear and hope, made him take a step closer. He hesitated for a long moment, studying the glowing armor. Sparks of energy flickered across its surface, dancing in strange patterns. Then he reached out and touched it lightly. A small spark jumped between his fingers and the armor. It was not painful, but it made him jump back. Her voice softened. "You must remove it." "Now." Eli swallowed hard. "Remove it." The armor looked impossible to take off. And yet, her eyes, the way she trembled slightly inside it, made him understand this was life or death. His hands shook as he moved toward the first clasp. The armor resisted, making low metallic groans as if it had a mind of its own. Eli carefully loosened the first strap, then the second. She stood perfectly still, her gaze locked on him. There was a fragility to her now, like a creature trapped inside a cage. The wind picked up suddenly. Whistles of air tore across the rocky plains, and the strange hum in the atmosphere grew louder, vibrating in Eli's chest. Something in the ground beneath them seemed alive. He felt a tremor, subtle at first, then stronger. The planet itself seemed to breathe, and with every heartbeat, Eli could feel the tension building when he finally released the last clasp. A soft hiss of air escaped. She moved slowly, carefully, like she was unsure what would happen next. Eli could see her take a sharp, desperate breath. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. It was a sound he would never forget, the first real sound of life she had breathed freely in, who knows. "How long, thank you," she whispered, her voice quieter now, almost fragile. "But we are not safe yet." Eli's brow furrowed. "Not safe? What do you mean, who? What do you?" Before she could answer, the ground beneath them shook violently. Small cracks split, the rocky surface glowing with red energy like molten veins. Eli stumbled, his heart racing. Something ancient had awakened beneath the planet, something that had been dormant for centuries. The armor, he realized, was more than was a barrier, a prison holding forces he could not understand. Her eyes darted toward him, urgency flashing. "We must move now." Eli hesitated. Questions tumbled through his mind. Who or what was she? Why did she need the armor removed to breathe? And what had they awakened by touching her? The hum in the air grew louder, more chaotic, as if the planet itself was aware of their presence. She stepped forward gracefully, moving faster than her human form should allow. Eli struggled to keep up, stumbling over rocks and debris. He realized that in the red glow of the planet's sky, shadows danced unnaturally. Shapes moved in the distance, dark and massive. Whatever was awake beneath them was starting to rise. Her voice called back to him, firm but calm, "Follow me, and do not look back." Eli swallowed his fear. He did as she asked, moving behind her with every ounce of caution he had. Each step felt heavier than the last, the tension building like a coiled spring ready to snap. The wind carried a strange metallic scent now, and the hum seemed to whisper warnings in a language Eli could not understand. As they ran, he stole a glance at her. Without the armor, she looked smaller, almost fragile, but her eyes burned with a strange determination. Eli realized he was no longer just helping a stranger. He was part of something much larger, a story that had begun long before he had ever set foot on this world. The cracks in the ground widened, glowing brighter, and Eli's pulse quickened. The stranger in armor, or the one who had shed it, was leading him into the unknown, and as the wind howled and the planet seemed to awaken around them, he knew one thing for certain. Nothing here was ordinary. Cliffhanger, something ancient and powerful was stirring beneath the planet, and by helping her, Eli had just become part of a story that could change the fate of worlds. Eli followed her across the jagged terrain, every step sending pebbles clattering down the rocky slopes. The red sky above seemed to pulse with an unnatural light, like the planet itself was alive and watching. He struggled to keep pace with her. Without the armor, she moved with a strange, almost superhuman grace. Each step was precise, yet she looked fragile in a way that made Eli's chest tighten. The wind howled around them, carrying dust and sparks that glimmered in the strange light. Eli's mind raced with questions. Who was she? What had the armor been keeping inside her? And why did the planet tremble the moment he touched it? She glanced back at him. Her eyes, wide and intense, met his. "We must reach shelter," she said, her voice quieter now, softer, almost human. "It won't be long before they come. They." "Who's coming?" Eli asked, but she didn't answer. Instead, she turned sharply, sprinting toward a ridge that rose above the cracked plains. Eli pushed himself harder, stumbling over rocks, his lungs burning. Every instinct screamed that something dangerous was near, something that could tear them apart. Finally, they reached a plateau overlooking a narrow canyon. She stopped, pressing her hand to her chest, breathing fast. Eli watched as she took her first real breaths since the armor came off. Her chest rose and fell quickly, each inhale sharp, almost desperate. She coughed softly, gasping as if the air itself was new to her. Eli stepped closer, his curiosity stronger than his fear. "Are you okay?" he asked. She nodded slowly. "Still breathing hard, yes, but it's only temporary. I can't stay without it for long. Something about me calls them." "Calls them," Eli echoed, his voice shaking. He had no idea what she meant, but a deep, primal fear settled in his chest. Something hunted her, and now it might hunt him too. Before he could ask more, the ground beneath the plateau quaked, dust and small rocks skittered across the surface. Eli stumbled, but caught himself on a jagged stone. The red cracks in the earth spread wider, glowing like molten veins. Energy radiated from them, filling the air with a strange hum that made Eli's skin tingle. The armored woman, now fully revealed, looked at the fissures, her face a mix of fear and determination. "They are waking," she whispered, "and they are faster than you think." Suddenly, a shadow moved across the canyon. It was massive, taller than any structure Eli had ever seen, with limbs that seemed to bend in impossible ways. Its eyes glowed like molten lava, and every step it took made the ground shudder. Eli's stomach churned. Whatever it was alive, intelligent, and clearly hunting them. She grabbed his arm. "Run," she commanded. Her grip was strong, but not humanly strong. There was a weight to her strength that sent a shiver down Eli's spine. Together, they sprinted down a narrow path between rocks, twisting and turning to avoid falling debris. As they ran, she finally spoke, her voice calm but urgent. "The armor, it was not just protection. It keeps a power inside me contained. If I stay in it too long, I suffocate. If I remove it for too long, the energy calls them Eli's." Mind reeled. Power inside her. Energy that called creatures like the one pursuing them. He looked at her again, really looked, and realized she was something far beyond human. She was a being with abilities he could barely comprehend. The canyon opened into a small valley filled with jagged crystals glowing softly. She darted between them, guiding him, and whispered, "We can hide here for a moment, but only a moment. They can sense the energy from far away." Eli followed, his heart racing. He noticed that when she moved, the air seemed to bend slightly. Around her, like her presence warped reality. It was mesmerizing and terrifying all at once. They stopped behind a large crystal formation, and she pressed her hands against the glowing stone. The light responded, pulsing as if alive. Eli realized this was some kind of ancient technology or magic, but he didn't know which. "They cannot touch us here," she said quietly, "but we cannot stay. The longer I breathe freely, the stronger. The signal, they will come." Eli's head spun. "Then what do we do?" he asked. She looked at him, eyes burning with intensity. "We survive. We move, and you. You must trust me, no matter what happens." Eli swallowed hard. He wanted to ask more, but the distant roar of the creature cut through the valley. Its voice was low, guttural, and full of rage. Eli's blood ran cold. They had only moments. Before it discovered their hiding place, she stood tall now, her first breaths fully taken, and turned to him. "Hold on to me. Do exactly what I do. If we make one mistake," she didn't finish the sentence, but he understood. Mistakes meant death. The red sky above darkened further as the sun disappeared behind a massive storm cloud. Lightning crackled in the distance, and the hum of the planet grew louder, almost deafening. Eli felt a strange vibration in the ground through his boots, like the heartbeat of the world itself. And then, with a sudden motion, she darted forward again, pulling him. Behind her, Eli's heart pounded in his chest. The hunt had begun, and there was no turning back. Cliffhanger? Eli realized that by helping her breathe, he had become part of something far bigger than he could imagine. The planet, the creatures, and the armor's mysterious power were all connected, and their story was just beginning. The wind howled across the barren plains, whipping dust and small rocks into Eli's face. He stumbled, struggling to keep up with her. Without the armor, she moved faster than he thought possible, each step light and sure, almost like she floated. Above the jagged ground, Eli's lungs burned, but he pushed himself harder. He had no choice. If he fell behind, they would both die. She darted ahead, scanning the horizon with sharp, alert eyes. Eli noticed the way her fingers twitched slightly, almost sensing something invisible. Every so often, she would stop, glance back, and press a hand to the ground. Tiny holographic symbols appeared beneath her fingers, glowing faintly in the dust. Lines and shapes formed a map, showing movements and paths that Eli could not understand. "They are close," she said, her voice low, almost a whisper. "Faster, Eli. They sense the energy." Eli's heart pounded. "What are they?" he asked, but she didn't answer. She only ran faster, pulling him along. The ground trembled with every step, and shadows began to shift unnaturally across the plains. Eli could feel the planet itself vibrating, reacting to something hidden below. Then he saw it. A massive creature emerged from behind a Regia monster taller than any building. Its body dark and jagged like molten rock. Its eyes glowed a deep crimson, and its long limbs twisted in impossible angles. Each step made the earth quake, and every movement carried a low, guttural hum, as if it communicated with the planet itself. Eli froze for a split second, his mind screaming at him to run. She grabbed his arm with surprising strength and pulled him forward. "No time!" she shouted. "Keep moving!" They ran through narrow paths between jagged rocks, twisting and turning as the creature followed. Its claws struck the ground, with deafening crashes, sending dust and sparks flying into the air. Eli stumbled over a loose stone and almost fell, but she grabbed his wrist and yanked him up, pulling him along without breaking stride. "They are fast," she said, her breathing steady despite the chase, "and they think faster. We can't fight them head-on." Eli's mind raced. How could she move so easily, so calmly, while a monster that could crush mountains hunted them? And why did it only seem to go after her? The questions tumbled inside his head, but there was no time for answers. Suddenly, she skidded to a halt and pressed her hands against a large rock formation. The rock pulsed faintly under her touch, responding to her energy. A hidden passage opened before them, narrow and dark. "This way," she commanded. They slipped inside, just as the creature slammed into the rocks behind them. The sound of crashing stone echoed through the cavern, followed by a low roar of frustration from the monster. Eli's ears rang, and he felt the vibrations through the floor. Whatever it was alive, intelligent, and furious. Inside the passage, the walls glowed faintly, revealing ancient markings that shimmered in soft light. She traced her fingers over the symbols as they moved, muttering words Eli could not understand. A warm, gentle light spread through the corridor, pushing back the darkness and providing a small sense of safety. "They cannot enter here," she said softly, "but we cannot stay long. The energy you felt, the energy I carry it, will call them again. Soon more will come." Eli's pulse quickened. "More. How many? How fast?" She shook her head. "Enough to overwhelm us. We must keep moving." "Trust me, Eli, do not question now." As they moved deeper into the cavern, Eli noticed strange crystals embedded in the walls, glowing with the same energy as the armor had. Every step he took made the crystals hum softly, vibrating through his bones. It was mesmerizing, but also terrifying. He realized that the energy inside Hertha energy the armor had contained was not just power, it was alive, and it had a mind of its own. A sudden rumble shook the passage. Dust fell from the ceiling. The creature outside roared its voice, bouncing through the tunnels like thunder. Eli's stomach churned. They had only a moment of safety before the hunt resumed. She turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly in the crystal light. "You must stay close," she said. "One step alone, 1 second of hesitation, and we are finished." Eli nodded, swallowing hard. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on him. Every decision mattered. Every misstep could be fatal. The narrow passage twisted, forcing them downward into a cavern that opened into a massive chamber. The walls were etched with ancient symbols, glowing faintly with energy. The air was thick with the hum of power, almost like it was alive. She moved to the center of the chamber and pressed her palms to the ground. Light spread outward in waves, forming a protective barrier. "They can't touch us here," she whispered, "but this won't last. We have only moments before they adapt. We must move fast and carefully." Eli took a deep breath, trying to steady himself. He was beginning to understand the danger but also the strength of the being beside him. She was not just a stranger, she was a force of nature, a living weapon, and a mystery that no human could fully grasp. And yet, for all her power, there was fear in her eyes. Fear that the hunt had only just begun? Cliffhanger. The creature outside roared again, louder this time, as if calling others. Eli realized that surviving the night would be only the first test stand. The real danger had yet to reveal itself. Eli's heart pounded as he followed her through the twisting cavern. The glowing crystals along the walls cast strange shadows, making the chamber feel alive, as if it was breathing with them. Each step echoed, mingling with the distant roars of the creature outside. Eli realized that every moment they stayed still, the danger grew closer. Finally, they reached a wider chamber. The ceiling arched high above them, etched with intricate symbols that pulsed faintly with the same energy as her armor had. She stopped in the center and pressed her hands to the ground. A soft hum radiated outward, vibrating through the floor and walls. Eli felt a warmth, almost like a shield, push back against the darkness outside. She turned to him, her face serious. Her eyes glowed faintly in the dim light, reflecting worry and urgency. "I need to tell you something," she said, her voice low. "You need to understand why I asked you to remove the armor and why we are being hunted." Eli nodded, still breathing hard. "I'm listening," he said. She began slowly, choosing her words carefully. "The armor, it is not just protection. It holds a power inside Mia, power that is alive. If I remain in it too long, I suffocate. My body cannot survive the pressure of the energy. But if I remove it for too long, the energy escapes and calls them." Eli's mind reeled. "Calls them." She looked away for a moment, her jaw tight. "They are hunters. Ancient beings designed to track and destroy anything that carries this energy. I am part human, yes, but also something more. The armor contained the energy, keeping it stable. When it's removed, it acts like a beacon." "They come." Eli swallowed hard, trying to process the revelation. The being beside him was not entirely human, yet she had trusted him to remove the armor. And now, by doing so, they were both in mortal danger. She traced her fingers over the glowing symbols etched into the floor. "This chamber is a sanctuary. It hides us from their senses. But it won't hold for long. The energy you saw inside me, It grows stronger by the minute. The more I breathe freely, the stronger the signal. Eli glanced at her, feeling a mixture of fear and awe. Then why did you trust me to remove it? She hesitated, her eyes softening slightly. Because it had to be done. I cannot breathe in the armor forever. And you are human, but you have something inside. You that allows you to endure what most could not. I needed you to help me survive, even if it meant risking yourself. Eli felt the weight of her words. This was no ordinary mission, no ordinary chase. He was entangled in something far beyond his understanding, a story of power, survival, and forces that could reshape worlds. A sudden tremor shook the chamber. Dust fell from the ceiling. Eli's stomach dropped. She grabbed his arm, urgency flashing in her eyes. They are close, faster than before. We must move now. They ran again deeper into the twisting tunnels. The crystals along the walls grew brighter, responding to the energy she carried. Each step made the air vibrate with power. Eli realized that the being beside him was not only alive, but in tune with the planet itself. The energy she carried affected everything: the air, the rocks, even the light around them. As they turned a corner, she paused abruptly. She placed both hands on the ground, and a wave of light spread out, forming a protective dome. Eli felt the warmth and pressure, like a shield against the unseen threat outside. The roar of the creature echoed through the cavern, growing faint. As the dome held it at bay, she turned to him, her eyes intense. This energy, it is a responsibility. I carry it, but it is dangerous. It can protect or destroy. That is why I need the armor, why I must breathe freely sometimes, and why I am hunted. You must understand this if we are to survive. Eli nodded slowly. I think I understand, he said, though the truth was, he didn't. Not fully, but he trusted her. He had no choice. Another tremor shook the cavern, more violent this time. Crystals fell from the walls, and the ground cracked slightly beneath their feet. She grabbed his hand. This chamber will not last. We must leave it soon. Every second we stay, the hunters grow closer. But I cannot go without you. You must follow me exactly. Eli felt the weight of the moment. He was no longer a simple explorer. He had become part of something larger, something beyond human comprehension. The creature outside was relentless. The energy inside her was alive, unpredictable, and powerful. And yet, there was no turning back. She looked at him with a faint smile, though her eyes betrayed her worry. You've seen part of the truth, she said softly. But this is only the beginning. What comes next will test both of us. Eli swallowed hard, feeling both fear and determination. Whatever lay ahead, he knew one thing. He would not let her face it alone. Cliffhanger. The hunters were adapting, learning to track the energy. Eli realized that surviving the sanctuary would be only the first challenge, the true test of her power, and his courage was about to begin. The cavern stretched ahead, twisting and narrowing like the veins of some massive creature. Eli followed closely, his every step echoing off the walls. The faint glow from the crystals lit their path, casting strange, dancing shadows that made the passage feel alive. He could hear the distant roars of the hunters outside, growing closer, sharper, angrier with each passing moment. She led him forward without hesitation, moving with a confidence that Eli could barely comprehend. Even without the armor, she seemed unstoppable, like her body had been made for this kind of terrain. The closer they got to the end of the twisting tunnel, the more he noticed the symbols etched into the walls. They pulsed faintly, glowing in response to her presence. This way, she whispered, her hand brushing over one of the glowing marks. A section of the wall shimmered and then slowly slid aside, revealing a narrow passage beyond. The tunnel beyond was darker, but safe for a... Now, Eli hesitated. How do we know it's safe? She glanced back, her eyes serious. We don't, but it's better than staying here. As they slipped through the hidden passage, Eli could feel the energy of the planet around them. It was alive, pulsating beneath his feet. The closer they moved to the passage, the calmer it felt, as if the planet itself was helping them hide. Yet, the air was still heavy with tension, thick with the knowledge that the hunters were relentless and intelligent. Finally, they emerged into a massive underground chamber. The ceiling arched high above, covered in glowing crystals that bathed the chamber in soft light. Ancient symbols were etched deep into the stone walls, pulsing faintly with energy. The woman pressed her hands to the ground, and a soft hum radiated outward. Eli felt warmth and pressure, like a protective shield forming around them. "They cannot enter here," she said quietly. "This sanctuary protects us, but only for a short while. The energy inside me will still call them. We must keep moving soon." Eli glanced at her, noticing how her body seemed to hum with the same energy as the crystals around them. The armor had contained this energy, but now that it was free, he could feel it radiating into the chamber, reacting with the environment. It was beautiful and terrifying. Suddenly, a tremor shook the chamber, and small crystals fell from the ceiling. The hunters outside roared in frustration, their voices echoing through the tunnels. Eli swallowed hard, realizing that the sanctuary's protection was temporary. She turned to him, her eyes glowing faintly. "You must stay close," she said. "One step alone, one moment of hesitation, and they will find us." Eli nodded, gripping his weapon tightly. Every nerve in his body was on edge, his pulse racing. He had never been in a situation like this before. The hunters were not ordinary creatures. They were fast, intelligent, and relentless. And the woman he followed was no ordinary human either. She moved deeper into the chamber, tracing her fingers over the glowing symbols on the floor. Each touch caused the light to pulse, creating a faint map of the tunnels ahead. Eli realized that she was guiding them, not just with knowledge of the passage, but with the energy she carried. "They sense the energy," she said softly. "It's alive, and it calls to them. But these tunnels, these symbols, they hide us. Just for a moment, we cannot stay long." Eli glanced at the shadows dancing on the walls. "How long do we have?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "Minutes, maybe less." The chamber vibrated again, stronger this time. Dust fell from the ceiling, and the hum of the energy grew louder. Eli's stomach twisted. Every second they lingered increased, the chance that the hunters would find them. She took a deep breath and extended her hand. "Come," she said firmly. "We move together, or we die apart." Eli grasped her hand, feeling the surge of energy beneath her touch. It was like nothing he had ever felt before, powerful, alive, and slightly dangerous. He realized that trusting her was the only way to survive, even though the full truth of her power was still a mystery. They moved through the chamber quickly, guided by the glowing symbols. The energy pulsed in waves, reacting to their presence. The hunters outside screamed in frustration again, their sounds echoing eerily through the tunnels. Eli realized that this was only a temporary safety, a brief reprieve in a deadly game. Finally, they reached the end of the hidden passage. A narrow stairway led upward, toward what looked like another exit. She glanced back at Eli, her eyes intense. "Beyond this, it will not be easy. The next area is open, exposed. The hunters will see us if we are not careful. But we have no choice." Eli's throat went dry. "Then we go," he said, determination hardening in his chest. She nodded, and together they began the climb. Every step brought them closer to danger, but also closer to the answers Eli desperately needed. He realized that the woman beside him was not just a guide or a fighter. She was a key to understanding the strange energy, the hunters, and the mysteries of the planet itself. And as they climbed, the red glow of the sky above seeped into the tunnels, warning him that the hunt was far from over. Cliffhanger. They had escaped the immediate threat, but the open terrain ahead would test them both. And Eli knew that the true challenge facing the hunters in the open was waiting just beyond the next ridge. The stairway ended at a jagged cliff, overlooking a vast valley bathed in the red glow of the sky. Winds whipped across the open terrain, carrying dust, sparks, and the faint hum of the hunters below. Eli shielded his eyes, taking in the sight. The valley was beautiful in a dangerous alien way, but he could feel the threat lurking everywhere. Every shadow seemed alive. Every gust of wind seemed to whisper warnings. She stood at the edge, the wind tugging at her hair and clothes. Without the armor, her movements were fluid, almost weightless. Yet there was a seriousness in her posture that made Eli's chest tighten. Her eyes scanned the valley, glowing faintly. "You need to understand something before we go forward," she said, her voice low but firm. "Beyond this cliff, there is no sanctuary, no protection. We are exposed. Every step is dangerous. You must choose whether to continue or turn back." Eli's heart raced. "Turn back and leave you alone." She shook her head. "No, I would not survive alone. But I will not force you. You are human. This path, it will test you, physically and mentally. You may not be ready." Eli swallowed hard, looking down at the valley below. The terrain was treacherous, full of jagged rocks and deep chasms, and he could hear it the low, rumbling hum of the hunters, getting closer, sharper, hungrier. He realized that the energy inside her was calling them, and by staying with her, he was now a part of that call. "I'm not leaving," he said finally, his voice firm, though his hands shook. "I came this far. I'm not turning back now." Her eyes softened slightly, and she extended her hand. "Then you must trust me. Do exactly what I do. One wrong move, one hesitation, and we are finished." Eli took her hand, feeling the surge of energy beneath her touch. It was alive, powerful, almost overwhelming, but strangely comforting. For the first time, he felt a connection with her beyond fear. This was no longer just survival. It was trust, a bond formed in the face of impossible danger. She led him down the jagged slope, moving with confidence and grace. Each step she took seemed to manipulate the energy around her, keeping the hunters at bay, though only barely. Eli struggled to match her pace, stumbling on the uneven ground. But she was always there to pull him up, guiding him, steadying him, protecting him. As they reached the valley floor, she suddenly stopped and pressed both hands to the ground. Waves of light spread out in concentric circles, pulsating with energy. Eli could feel the power radiating through his body, almost like electricity running beneath his skin. The hunters roared in frustration from the distance, unable to penetrate the field she had created. "This is temporary," she said, her voice steady but urgent. "We have only moments. I cannot stay here long. The energy inside me, it is strong but unstable. Every second it flows freely. The hunters adapt. We must move before they learn how to bypass it." Eli looked at her, realizing the gravity of the situation. She was not just a being with power, she was a living force, carrying energy that could change the course of life on this planet. And now, he was tied to her fate. "You need to understand," she continued, her eyes locking onto his. "I could ask you to leave, go back, survive. But if you stay, you may witness things no human should see, things that could change you forever. You must make the choice. Do you continue, knowing the danger, or do you leave now?" Eli's mind raced. Fear tugged at him, screaming to escape, to survive. But his curiosity, his sense of loyalty, and the strange bond he felt with her pushed him forward. "I'm staying," he said, his voice firm, though his heart pounded in his chest. She nodded slowly, a faint smile touching her lips. "Then we move together. Trust me, and follow exactly one step out of line, and we are finished." As they pressed forward into the valley, the hunters' cries grew louder. Shapes moved in the distance, faster than Eli could comprehend. Their shadows stretched across the ground, blending with the jagged rocks and red haze. Every instinct screamed danger, yet the energy from her hands and body provided just enough of a shield to keep them safe. For now, Eli realized something profound. The choice to stay was more than bravery. It was a commitment to understanding the power she carried, to facing dangers beyond human comprehension, and to trust someone whose life depended on his cooperation. The wind howled, the sky burned, and the valley stretched endlessly ahead. Every step was perilous, every moment a test. Yet Eli felt determination harden in his chest. Whatever lay ahead, he would not abandon her. He had chosen this path, and there was no turning back. Cliffhanger. The hunters were closing in faster, and smarter than ever. Eli realized that surviving the open valley would demand every ounce of courage, wit, and trust he could muster, and the true test of her power was about to begin. The valley stretched endlessly before them, bathed in a harsh red glow from the alien sky. Jagged rocks and deep chasms cut the terrain into a maze of danger. Eli could hear the hunters moving through the shadows, faster, sharper, and smarter than before. Their glowing eyes cut through the dim light like molten fire. She stood beside him, calm but tense, her hands glowing faintly with the energy that had been contained within the armor. Without it, she was lighter, faster, and more alive. The energy she carried was unstable. Every second it flowed freely. It sent a signal to the hunters, drawing them closer. "They know we are here," she whispered, "and they are coming. We have no choice but to face them." Eli swallowed hard, gripping his weapon. His pulse raced, but he had made the choice to stay. Now he would see the truth of her power, and the danger it brought, from the distance. The largest hunter emerged, towering over the rocks like a dark monument. Its limbs twisted unnaturally, moving with a predatory intelligence. Behind it, smaller hunters spread across the valley, closing in like shadows come alive. The ground trembled beneath their steps. She touched Eli's shoulder, grounding him. "Trust me, follow my lead. One wrong move, and we are finished." Suddenly, she raised her hands, and the energy surged outward in waves. The hunters screeched and recoiled as if the light burned them. Rocks lifted from the ground, forming barriers and weapons controlled by her will. Eli stared in awe. The energy was not just a shield, it was alive, responsive, and terrifyingly powerful. Now, she shouted, and they ran, dodging falling rocks and twisted limbs. The largest hunter lunged at them, its claws tearing through the earth where they had stood moments before. Eli felt the ground shudder beneath his feet. She pivoted suddenly, releasing a burst of energy that threw the hunter back. Sparks and shards of rock flew into the air, creating a momentary barrier. Eli moved with her, his fear mingling with adrenaline. Every step required trust. Every move demanded precision. But the hunters adapted quickly. They were clever, and their intelligence was frightening. More of them appeared from the shadows, closing the distance faster than Eli could have imagined. The energy she carried pulsed violently, reacting to their presence, warning them, guiding them. But it was not enough to stop the relentless horde. She grabbed Eli's hand. "We cannot fight them all. There is only one way to survive. Trust me completely." Eli nodded, feeling the surge of energy under her touch. It was alive, chaotic, and overwhelming, but it felt like a part of him now, tethered to his courage, and choice to stay with a sharp motion. She focused the energy into a concentrated beam that shot forward, striking the largest hunter directly. Its scream echoed through the valley, a sound of fury and pain unlike anything Eli had ever heard. The smaller hunters faltered, confused, hesitant for the first time. She turned to Eli. "Now, run to the ridge. Follow me." They sprinted toward the edge of a cliff overlooking a deep canyon. The hunters regained their senses, but her energy created a protective corridor, bending reality slightly to keep them safe. Eli's lungs burned, his legs ached, but he moved faster than he thought possible, guided by her power and determination. At the cliff's edge, she paused. The hunters were close, but the energy around her flared like a shield, creating a dome of light that held them back. She looked at Eli, her eyes softening. "This is the last choice," she said. "We can escape together, but only if you trust me completely. Do not hesitate." Eli's heart pounded. Fear and trust collided within him. He nodded, gripping her hand tightly. "I trust you." She smiled faintly, her eyes glowing brighter. With a sweeping motion, the energy surged upward, creating a beam of light that lifted them from the cliff. The hunters screamed and clawed at the light, but they could not reach them. The energy carried them upward, higher and higher, until they were above the valley. Save for the moment, Eli looked at her, awe and relief washing over him. You saved us." She shook her head. "We saved ourselves," the energy responds. "To courage, to trust. You chose to stay. That made all the difference." Below them, the hunters retreated, unable to penetrate the beam. The valley fell silent again, save for the hum of the planet and the energy that flowed around her. Eli realized the truth. She was not just powerful, she was a living force of the planet itself, and by choosing to trust her, he had become part of something far greater than himself. She guided them to a safe plateau above the valley. The energy dimmed, settling into a soft glow. They looked at each other, breathing hard, exhausted but alive. For the first time, Eli felt a sense of peace and understanding. "You carry great power," he he said quietly. And danger. She nodded. Yes, but power without courage is nothing. You showed courage today. That is why we survived. Eli looked at the horizon, the red sky slowly fading as the planet calmed. The hunters were gone, at least for now. But he knew this was only the beginning. They had survived the night, but the story of the energy, the armor, and the hunters would continue. And yet, in that moment, he understood something deeper. Survival was not just about strength or speed. It was about trust, choices, and courage even. In the face of the impossible, the wind carried a strange hum, soft and soothing now. Eli realized he had witnessed something extraordinary, something beyond human understanding. And as he stood beside her, he knew one thing for certain. The universe was bigger, stranger, and more dangerous than he had ever imagined, but he was ready to face it. Resolution, they had survived the hunt, unlocked the secret of her power, and forged a bond built on trust and courage. The energy was still alive, the planet still dangerous, but together, they could face whatever came next.